It's actually questions like this is the reason why alcohol use disorder, alcoholism stays in the closet. It's why people don't want to talk about it because for fear of shame and guilt and just adverse reactions that to people from people who don't really know what they're talking about or haven't had the experience. Nothing against this person. I'm sure it's a very innocent answer, but it goes like this. I hate to ask you this, so why are you asking? But I'll further it. Why did you tolerate this behavior? And we're talking about my wife of 25 years who passed away 4.5 years ago from alcohol use disorder. If you follow me, you know that story. You can find it easily in my page. Most questions like this, I actually refer to a file that I have on top of my page, which are common core questions. Understanding that it's not the family's fault, that the family really has nothing to do with the alcoholic, certainly not the secondary family that somebody marries into. It's absurd to think that. And to tolerate it, why didn't we do anything about it? That's insulting on a level that most people cannot understand unless they have lived it. They literally do everything humanly possible to try and save that person until it gets to the point where it has to be self-preservation and they have to save themselves ultimately. So let's further the conversation. And the reason why this is especially insulting to say that somehow the family tolerated it in any capacity is just unbelievable. It just shows that someone's never had that experience. Alcoholics, being around them is an intolerable situation. My wife went to 7 rehabilitation facilities, so she tried almost endlessly to get help and to continue with that kind of help. She went to emergency stays almost on a monthly basis. She had psych holds. I've talked about these pretty much in detail. We did everything really possible to save her until really the very end where I'd had enough. And even then I had a plan when I was separating from her to put her into a sober living facility for at least a year. So it was an intolerable situation. And you have to realize families don't really have anything to do if they've inherited this disease from a spouse. And I'm going to further that. Again, in my wife's case, I really inherited the issue. She had this issue before I met her, and I, obviously was woefully ignorant of it because I had never grown up in that kind of environment. And she had a genetic disposition. It was definitely in her family. It was definitely her grandmother died from it in her 80s, unfortunately. She had some other close family members that had issues with it. And it was family culture. Her family drank wine with dinner. I've gone over this. And she also had, some pretty traumatic events when she was about 16, which I go over in her memoir that's coming out in about 10 days. So, I mean, she had a triple threat, a triple whammy. And she had already, I'm sure she was probably a level 2 alcoholic when I met her. I mean, she had a consistency of drinking wine really almost every night. And it was a reward system like it is for so many alcoholics at the end of the weekend or at the end of the day. They got through that period, so they reward themselves with alcohol. In her case, it was Chardonnay. She drank, gallons of it. Unfortunately, but it was a progressive disease, and not having any experience with it myself, I didn't know. So, you can't, you can't change something that you're not even aware of to begin with as a family member or a spouse. And then to assume someone is tolerating this kind of behavior is especially irksome, because I mean you have to realize marriage is a commitment, and you've dedicated a part of your own life to be part of it, and you've really put yourself into it. So it's not something you just go, okay, well that's a problem, I'm going to leave now. I mean that's not how marriage works. That's not how marriage is supposed to work. Certainly not for my generation, and culturally. I come from parents that lived, they were married for 60 years until my mother died. Both of my grandparents were married for 50 years. So my culture is to stick through, okay? It's called marriage vows, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer. Those things actually should mean something to more people. And they should understand that commitment level. It actually holds society better together if we take care of each other and we are there for each other. I know, what a concept, huh? Even when someone is ill, because you have to realize you stay with somebody because you want them to get better, and there was so much effort for her to get better. And she did have periods where she was sober for a period of time. And sometimes the rehabs worked. for a period of time. And unfortunately, unless you do the aftercare work and continue with it and really have a commitment to yourself not to ever drink again, it's not going to work. And, family doesn't really play any part in that. It's something that's going on in your spouse, in the other person. From an outsider, there's no way you could understand that. I hope this video helps to educate the people who are from the outside and have never had this experience. And I really hope you never have to. Now, for those families and loved ones who have lived through this or who are currently living through this, they know exactly what I'm talking about because they experience this every day or they have experienced it. Now, for those who need help or are currently involved in a situation where they have a family member, I have a complete coaching program. It's called There's an Alcoholic in the Family. Link is in the bio. Set up a Zoom call. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour. We do a deep dive into what's going on with you and your family. Again, the call is free. The course is definitely not, but we have different plans, different payment plans available to you. And I'm looking for people who had a certain commitment level, people who are coachable, and people who want to change their lives and the lives of their family forever. And again, thanks so much for listening.